All right, Scott. Scott, where did you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Originally, I am from Davenport, Iowa.
Tell me about your family growing up.
My family growing up was me, my brother, and my mother. My father died in Vietnam,
How old were you?
so I was 1.5 when he died. That would have been 1968. Yeah, 1968.
I'm sorry about that.
And my mother tried to raise me and my older brother the best she could, but we pretty much made our own decisions in life, you know. We didn't have a father to make our decisions for us, so when we became of age, you know, juveniles, my mother really didn't have any way to control us, you know.
Was she working or?
Yeah, she was always working. She took a job, went from being a secretary to working at John Deere Harvester, building combines, and that put her on third shift or second shift, and usually it was 10 to 12-hour shifts. So that left me and my brother completely alone for half the day. And you can get in a lot of trouble when you're a juvenile, and you know, you got an older brother. My older brother's 4 years older than I am. So he was always, you know, the first one to bring alcohol into the house, or cigarettes, or marijuana, or drugs, you know. He was the one to bring it in, and I would be the test dummy. You know, they tested on me first and see, if Scott can handle it, then we'll try it tomorrow. You know, that was pretty much how I grew up, man. And I was kind of like the test dummy. It was pretty wild.
How would you describe your childhood in general?
It was very abusive.
From
My
who?
older brother, I want to say he's a sadomasochist is what I want to say. He loves to deliver pain to people, let's put it that way. That's his thing. He likes to watch people suffer. And he loved to watch me suffer. I mean, he would do anything to make me in pain, you know. And I literally grew up with broken bones from him, bruises. I went to school one time, and the teacher called my mom and said, "You got to come down here right now, or I'm going to take your kid from you. I swear to God, I will take your child from you and give him to the foster people." And my mom was like, "What the fuck?" So she left work to come down. My brother had given me 101 bruises all over my body on the way to fucking school. He just decided just to beat the crap out of me. And I'm trying to make it to kindergarten at the fucking time. And it was pretty wild. It was a wild thing. My teacher was adamant about, she thought my mother had beat me. But my mom didn't touch me. It was my older brother.
Was your older brother like a father figure to you?
I tried to make him that. I really did. I didn't have anything, you know, as far as a father figure. All my friends that had fathers, their fathers weren't interested in me because of what happened maybe with my dad, or because not everybody was a Vietnam supporter, you know. It was a fucked up war. And they acted like, you know, it's not their fucking problem, you know. Other times, you know, they would let me maybe eat dinner with them or something, but then they'd tell me, you know, I got to skedaddle after that, you know. And then I'd go home. But like I said, it just got worse and worse. My life did. I was going to be on my own all the time. I just knew that, you know, from the get-go, that I knew that as a youngster that I was going to be by myself throughout the history of my life, you know. even though I didn't want to be by myself. I wanted to have friends and maybe get married or something like that when I got older. But it just never happened, you know. Just never transpired for me. I became an alcoholic and a drug addict, and things just spiraled out of control, and things just kept getting worse and worse. I moved back home in 2008 from California here, and I was in a flood in Cedar Rapids in 2008, a biblical fucking, it was really wild, dude. 45 feet above crest.
Wow.
Was the record for the river there. It was 45, it's 4.5 stories. I lost everything I owned and wound up homeless again because of that. I mean, I had a job and everything before that, and I was a working alcoholic is what I call it, a functioning alcoholic and drug addict. And I didn't mind working 8 or 10 hours out of the day as long as I was getting a paycheck at the end of the week, you know.
You've had jobs?
Yeah. And I didn't mind working as long as I was going to get a paycheck. But when the flood hit, it took away my job, and that left me homeless again. And FEMA came in and gave us all $300. What the fuck are we going to do with that? We were living in a schoolhouse, in an elementary school, and I decided to split, man. I was like, I ain't sticking around here. There's no jobs or nothing, you know. It's just, the town was really fucked up. So I left, and Cedar Rapids since then has rebuilt and everything's fine and hunky-dory and everything, but I never went back, so to speak. I did go back once, actually just went through there on a bus, but and seeing that everything was kind of rebuilt, because it pancaked the whole town, you know. All the trees were gone. It was really weird. All the houses, where I lived was completely gone. I lived 2 blocks from the river, you know, and it was really weird to see everything gone like that. It's the first time in my life in 2008 that I lost everything. So I moved out here to California, stopped in Colorado, first of all, for a little bit to check out Colorado. I've never been there. And I stayed in Colorado for a couple of years in Boulder and decided I wasn't doing nothing there but almost freezing to death in the wintertime, you know.
What kind of jobs did you have?
I usually take factory jobs. I also take cooking jobs. I'm a great dishwasher and prep cook, you know. That's not really the star of the show, though. I'm not the cook, so to speak. But I can cook, though, when it comes down to it. I'd rather do the lackey jobs, you know. Then I'm not so much responsible for something, you know. And if they catch me drinking, they usually don't give a shit, because it's hard to get a good dishwasher to stick around, you know. So they don't mind if you have a drink or two on the job, you know. And that's what I try to do, at least, you know. I try to work as much as I can, and I just got to the point right now that I just went through a big fire and lost everything again. In 2018, I also went through a big fire. So this is my second fire. I've lost everything I owned. This fire, though, I lost my wife. And like I said, I don't have any meaning in life anymore. She was like my everything to me, you know. I met her after the first fire in 2018.
How long were you in 18?
Yeah, so I was only with her for 7 years, but that was the first girl that I had actually cared for, you know, in my whole life, you know. I decided to settle down finally, and she was the one, you know.
I'm sorry.
And now she's gone already, and I just can't tell you what a feeling I feel every day. I wake up and I start drinking. I don't stop until I go to sleep at night. And I just don't want to be around anymore. I want to go be with her, but that means I have to die, you know? And it's really, it's a weird situation I'm in.
How much do you drink now?
I drink as much as I possibly can. If I don't have enough money, I'll panhandle or whatever I got to do to get the money. I don't care as far as that goes. I've even had to steal it, and that's a shame to me. Where I grew up, you don't steal no matter what happens. And I've had to change my life around just to, just to do the alcohol thing. And I'm addicted to it. I can't stop, you know. I've tried several times to get a hold of myself, and I just can't. I think about her 24/7, and it dawns on me that alcohol is probably going to be the death of me.
How old are you now?
50. I'm 58 and a half, or 58 and 3/4. Wait a minute, 58. I'm up 59 April 21st.
Do you have children?
Huh?
You don't have children?
I have 3.
You have 3.
Yeah, I have 3 kids.
Were you in their lives?
I was. It's another heartbreaking part of my story is the first girl that I had a child with. We met, and she had tried to have a child with her high school sweetheart. Like 5 different times, she had tried to have a child with her high school sweetheart. That didn't happen. She could not have a child with this guy. It would abort every time. So she went out and found me playing pool one night with my buddies and decided she was going to date me right then and there. When she decided that, she decided she was going to mate with me and have a child with me. Now, this is a true story. I was working at the time. I was the assistant manager of a chicken restaurant, and she was the assistant manager of a McDonald's. The only thing was she couldn't have a kid with the guy that she loved. He blamed her, saying that there was something wrong with her innards, that she couldn't have a child. She could not have his sire one of his children. So, being that it was, she had to find me to have a child. She did that. We had a child with no problems. The child came out with no problems at all. And it was just him. There was something wrong with his sperm, and she proved it right then and there. She named the child after him. That hurt. That hurt me bad. She named it after him because she loved him. She didn't love me. She just wanted to prove the point. The point was that he couldn't have children. There was something wrong with his innards. And later on, they went back together and they had 2 children again. But they figured out what was wrong with him, the doctors did. So basically I had a child with her to prove a point to him. And I never got to spend much time with him. His name was Jeffrey, and I always wanted to do anything with him, you know, throw a baseball with him or take him fishing or anything that I never got to do with my dad, you know. And I was never given the chance to. So once again, I was just being me and doing my thing, drinking and going to work every day, and I met another girl. This time, this girl was going to be mine, you know. There was no extra boyfriends and all that, you know. I took her out of a bad situation she was in with a boyfriend, but she didn't love him. I knew that, you know, from the start, that she didn't love her boyfriend. Anyway, me and her got together, and things were great. I had 2 jobs that I was working, because we had 1 daughter already, and we had a son on the way, and things were going great. I was working 2 jobs. One was at Oral-B in Iowa City, Iowa, and I had moved back to Iowa because I wanted to be closer to my mother at the time, so she could watch my new children, you know. And my girl decided that she was going to go see her parents on Christmas. And they sent her a bus ticket to go from Iowa City back to Duluth, Minnesota, where she was from. And when she got there, they gave her a car. They thought that would help us out, you know. At the time, we didn't have a car. And sure, it would have been great. She got in a car accident on the way down and died in a car accident. Luckily that my 2 children were unscathed in the accident. They were in the back seat. But their mother died. And I was left with 2 children at the ages of 1 and 2.5. And their mom was now gone. And I had to make a big decision in life. And that decision was, am I going to raise these kids by myself? Or am I going to give these kids up to the foster care people? And I chose to raise them myself. And I quit drinking. I quit doing drugs. And I did that for 15 years. And then her parents finally came after 15 years, and her father showed me some paperwork that said that he had less than 1 year to live, and he wanted to spend it with my kids. And I said, "No, I ain't got a problem with that. That'd be fine with me." So my kids kind of went on a vacation with their grandparents, and that was cool, you know. He said if I did that he would make sure that they would never want in their lives for anything. If I just would give my kids to them for a year, that my kids would never want anything in life. They would be financially set.
That's nice of him.
And that's what he told them. And when they became 18, both my kids got $4 million apiece. It's a lot of money. My children don't know where I am right now. And I don't tell them. I tell them I'm couch surfing with friends out in California. Don't worry about me. I don't want none of their money. I don't want nothing to do with them anymore. They're of age. They both went to college. Both of them are successful. They both got married and got kids themselves, you know. So there's no need that I should ruin their lives by entering it at any point in time. I just know that that's what would happen, you know. So I stay hidden. It's the only thing I can do. I can't enter their lives. I know better. They'll try to give me money, and they'll try to help me out. And that's not what I want.
When did you start drinking again? When they went away?
Yeah.
When they went to Minnesota?
Yeah. when they went away, I knew that I wasn't going to see him again. Even though he said it would only be a year, they just wind up staying there the rest of their lives. I knew it. I knew they would finish it out there. Because when he died, Grandma was all alone. And they didn't want Grandma to be all alone. So they called down and said, hey, Dad, can we just stay here with Grandma in this big, huge house that they had, you know, because they were fucking millionaires. And I said, yeah, there's no reason why you can't stay there. You don't have to come down here and live with me in a little dinky 2-room apartment, you know. You can stay with your grandparents. I'd be her parent now because he had died. And that's where they stayed, you know. I mean, the house that they were staying in had a fucking movie theater in it. My house didn't have a movie theater, you know. I couldn't offer them anything like that. I remember when I grew up, my favorite thing in life was like little cars, army men and shit like that. That was my favorite toys, man. And I was such a easy kid, you know, to babysit, I guess you'd say. So I just play with my toys. My toys were like little cars and little army men and shit like that. And as long as nobody bothered me, I could sit for hours and just have little skirmishes and play with my toys, you know. And that's how I grew up. And I don't know, man. Things are a lot different now in my life. And I know I can't go back to my kids now. My mom had died 2 years ago, and I didn't get to go back for that. And my brothers also passed away. So I'm the last of my lineage, of my brother and my mother and me. I'm the last one alive. And I'm living on Skid Row in L.A.
How long you been on the streets?
In L.A. here?
Well, in general.
For a year now, straight, since my old lady died. I've been living outside for a year. When she was alive, we always tried to have a roof over her head. We'd stay with her dad or some of her other friends that she had. And out here in California, she had a lot of friends that she went to school with. She went to school in Silver Lake. Her father was a comedy writer. So she came from above the line, if you know what that means, in the Hollywood business. And her father wrote the best MASH that there ever was. He wrote what's called a dramedy. It's when you mix drama and comedy together. He invented it, actually. His MASH is considered the best MASH that was ever written. And we just lived at his house for a while in Glendale, and taking care of him for a while till he passed away finally. And when he passed away, once again, we found ourselves without a place to live. And her dad died. 6 months later, she died.
How'd she pass away?
Natural causes. That was the amazing thing. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong with her. Just old age, I guess, is what they classified it as. She didn't have COVID. She didn't have anything else. She just went to sleep and didn't wake up. That was the weirdest part about it, you know? And I was like, what the hell? She didn't have any medication. She wasn't on any medication. And she was like me. I don't take medication either, you know? And she's fit as a fiddle and doing yoga and all that shit like she always did. And then she just didn't wake up one night. And I found her dead in the bed. And I was like, I couldn't even speak, you know, and now I'm without my significant other, and I've really lost everything I own again, basically. I don't have anything. I don't have a place to go anymore. Like, I can't go to where we stayed with her dad because that was her father's house, you know? And I don't know what happened. His lawyer came and locked it all up and all that. So I found myself on the streets again, and I don't have nowhere to go, really. I stayed in a motel for about a week, and that's all I could afford.
Do you ever feel like you're cursed or you're born under a bad sign or something like that?
I thought that. I really did. And a guy I told my story to basically said, you know, as much shit has fucking hit you, you could write a fucking hell of a book, dude. You know? And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, you know, that wouldn't be a bad idea, I guess, to write a book about the things I've had happen, you know? Because there's a lot of other things that have happened to me that I just, if I told you, you'd say, oh my fucking God. That is crazy, you know? But yeah, some of the places I picked to camp out here in California, I found out things that I wasn't supposed to find out, let's put it that way. So I had to shut my mouth. I can't tell anybody about what I've seen, because if I do, somebody will probably come and put a bullet in my head. Matter of fact, they would run to come and put a bullet in my head, because the world found out about what I know. There'd be a lot of people that would be really upset. Yeah, let's put it that way.
If you had your life to live all over again, would you have done anything differently?
Yeah, I would have. I would have never did the thing with Sue, of course, the first child. That was just wrong to me in so many ways, that we had a child and she named him after her.
Yeah, I know, but you're just shooting pool and drinking some beers, and
Yeah.
you got lucky that night.
That's what I thought, you know. I thought I just got lucky, you know. And then next thing you know, we were dating officially, a boyfriend and girlfriend. And next thing I know, we're having a child together. And I didn't even see the signs of any. I was smitten by her. And she did this all just to prove a fucking point to him. And that was fucking mean, man. The more I thought about it, it was just plain fucking mean what she did to me. But she never asked for child support or nothing like that. And I understand, now I understand, kind of, not forgiving her, but understanding that she couldn't prove it to him any other way, basically, in her mind. She was so upset that he was ready to break up with her and start dating some other girl, which is what he was doing. He was already dating another girl, and she was pissed about that. She was mad that he was dating another girl, and she thought that they were going to have a kid together, and she would be too late then to have his child. So I guess me being there was the point that he needed to make, you know. It's really wild, man.
Scott, let me ask you one last question. What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Never judge a book by its cover. It's a very important thing. There's a lot of meaning that goes behind it. A lot of people judge people by what they think that person is. They don't know what that person's been through. So that's what I think, yeah.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for sharing your story.
It's no problem, Mark.
I wish you lots of
Pleasure
luck.
meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
When I was designing the first White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.